Welcome to Artflakes. My name is Mutiu Olawuyi. I really don't have time to waste on this part of the show today. I want to go to the other part of the studio to explore that literature of the Malawian writers and the people themselves. So meet me on the other side. See you. Welcome to episode 2 of Malawian literature. In this episode, we'll be discussing about the literature, as I've told you before we get to the other side of the studio. There's something I want our viewers to know, that Artflakes is not just a show. It's a show that you can never find any other show like it in the entire Africa. A show that has touched more than 15 countries, looking at the world of the people and the literature of the people. Maybe you might have seen online on YouTube people talking about the country, the resources they have, and others like that in 1 minute, like that. But you cannot know deeply about the life of the people in those countries if you don't go into their literature. This is where Artflakes is completely different. Apart from this, in the subsequent one, you'll be seeing some creative work of people all over the world. So this is why I say Artflakes is a unique program that you must try as much as you can to watch every time you have the opportunity to watch it. Now, going back to what we're here for today. My guest is here, Mr. Umar Osabo.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the other time today. We were able to explore. You were trying to even blow out beyond the content of what we plan to. I know sometimes when I put fire out there, you start pulling, because you have that blood of Africanism in you, yes. And you feel very, very pained when you yes. hear that there's a nation on the continent of Africa having challenges, and you start tracing them back and you feel the pain. I understand the fact that it's not easy, particularly when you are attached with your own people. Today we're going to be exploring the literature. Maybe we're going to go deeply into the lifestyle of people. What are the people experiencing? How is the life of the people generally? From the literature, let us look at the literature of the people of Malawi. So what can you say generally about it?
Before 1964 and 65, like I've earlier pointed out in the first episode of this program, there was little or nothing to say about the literature of the people, because the grip of those Caucasians, their heinous crime, atrocities, and everything evil he could think of, grip on the people. They were unable to do much compared to some of their African counterparts or countries. But however, from between 1965 to 1990, the literature of Malawians or Malawi can be described as a protest literature, because the people were little or no different between Dr. Hastings Bender and when the Britishers or the Portuguese was around. So there was this new crop of writers who came up, and they started to write satirical tales, ridicule tales, in order to challenge the atrocities of Bender as their leader at the time. So some of these writers are Kerian Frank, Chief Sola, Felix Hintali, Jack Majampi, and so on and so forth. They were this set of writers. Some of them were novelists, some of them were poets, some of them were even dramatists. And I think their work has helped in so many ways to change the tyrant as their leader. So this is not just in Malawi. This is happening in so many African countries. For instance, when you read Helon's Abila, Waiting for an Angel, typify or has aptly captured the last days of Sani Abacha, who is a tyrant from my country, who is anti-opposition. And The Dance of the Forest by Wole Soyinka is also in that category of writing. The Man Died, which is Soyinka Prison's Memo, and even Ngugi wa Thiong'o's Black Hermit, River Between, among others. So, like Matigari of Ngugi wa Thiong'o was a very Pan-African text, you know, laced in the Marxism ideology. You see, so that was the tool the people used. And if you could remember some things about the Arab Spring, most of the poems that were chanted in Tahrir Square, in Egypt, in Morocco, in Libya, even in Saudi, were not written that day. For instance, the poetry of Ahmed Nagim, Kazim El-Chabi, among other writers, Mahmoud Darwish, were chanted on the street, and people were able to react. So literature is not just for reading's sake, because literature is what? Is a precipitation of people's culture, ideas, worldview, what they want to achieve, who they were before, where they are now, and what they want to be tomorrow. So these are some of the thematic preoccupation you could see in the works of the Malawian protest literature.
All right, let's then go into the work specifically. Let's start with Kaira's The Detainees. From the title itself, we know that there's a symptom of oppression, there's a symptom of exploitation, there's a symptom of protest from that. The Detainees.
Yes, The Detainees by Karian is a satire similar to Wole Soyinka Kongi's Harvest.
Okay.
Similar to Wole Soyinka Lion and the Jewel. Similar to Ngugi wa Thiong'o's River Between. And Black Hermit. Black Hermit in particular. Black Hermit. Detainee is in that category, though Detainee is a novel. Detainee is a satire that tries to ridicule, to steer, to bring out the reality, the evil in the government of the country at a time, in a similar way to what Helon Abila wrote about Sani Abacha in his book titled Waiting for an Angel. As well as Aka,
even a play of giants.
The play of giant by Soyinka.
Depict the picture of the Sese Mobutu.
Yes, and so on.
The Idi Amin of Uganda, like that.
Kimbabu, I think, is also a play by Wole Soyinka that tries to mirror the last days of Kwame Nkrumah in power. There are many satirical works in this category to cited in connection to the. But The Detainee is a book that tries to ridicule Benda. The story was mostly told through Napolo. Napolo is a villager who lives in his village with the intention of going to a city for medical treatment. So along the line, he met a school teacher who was trying to open his eyes to the reality on ground, telling him the unimaginable. As he was telling him the story, there was a lady eavesdropping at their conversation, and she said, if I may see it, I would like to read her words, where she said, "Watch your words before you are being thrown into the prison." You see, though Napolo himself did not believe what the school teacher was saying because of his naivety, because of his naive nature, because of his weak understanding, or his gullible. And I think this, though I'm not analyzing, I'm trying to give the plot summary of the novel Detainee. But let me chip in this. A lot of us in this African country even the educated one, we are somehow naive to the things going on around us. That is why Fela called it suffering and smiling. A leader will be so bad, will be so wicked, will be so anti his people, but you see people worshiping him, praising him, calling him names. So that is why some of the leaders in Africa, they don't see themselves as if they are doing bad. They see themselves as if they are doing good to the people. Hence, since they have people who are supporting them here and there. So this is just but the plus summary of the
part you quote. You know, I'm just trying to look at the implication of this in the modern time. You are careful of what you say because you are afraid of being jailed. That's the statement. That's what the quote. It's saying that you have to be mindful of what you say. You don't know who is listening to you, and you might be jailed. And this is happening not only in Africa, in Arab world, in different parts of the world, even in Saudi Arabia. You know, some scholars are in prison today because of what the truth they say to the leaders. The same thing applicable to every part of the globe. Well, I feel that there is more freedom is in the West. We have to be realistic in this part. Those who gave us the system are using a new system now, and we fail to transit from where they left us to the new system. That's the problem we're facing today. I think the education they gave us then, or the orientation given to us then, is not the one they are using for the operation in their own area. But we are still using that archaic system, which is still what is affecting us today. Not listening, not being ready to be criticized. If you criticize too much the government, you are out of the system.
I think,
and that is the case.
I think I will slightly differ from where you said there is more freedom in the West. I think that is just a perception from afar. But the reality in the Western world is that, for instance, the so-called police of the world, US, we have had issues where people are sacked unilaterally, where decisions are taken unilaterally in US, specifically during the current regime of Donald Trump. The House will say this in the interest of the people. The government will went ahead and execute a different thing. And one of the greatest living critics in the Western world or in Europe today is George Galloway. George Galloway has received a lot of threat, has received a lot of... In fact, so many things had happened to him, including going to prison because of his advocacy, because of his pro the people, because of his anti-evil of the government. Because, for instance, the attack of countries like Libyan, like Iraq, attacking of Iraq, Afghanistan, and so on and so forth. Even during George Walker Bush, during Obama, most of the parliamentarians, most of the people, most of the scholars, even the September 11 crisis, a lot of scholars went to jail in America during George Walker Bush. Yeah, we are fully aware of this record. So it's not as if the Western world have absolute freedom of independence, of freedom of speech. But the truth is that he who wants to change a society must be ready to pay the price. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, for instance, he has paid the price. Wole Soyinka has paid the price. Usman Simbani has paid the price. So why won't Umar want to pay the price? So it's good to say the truth. It's good to speak the truth, even if you are going to die the next minute. So for us to keep on covering leaders who are criminals, who in actual sense are supposed to be in the cell, I think is evil. If I may,
before you go deeply into politics, let's go back to literature. Okay. I want us to go into Franklin Chipasula's The Nature of Our Affairs. This is one of the most interesting literary work of the Malawis that I've read. Could you please explore this and let's look, what is it about? The nature of our affairs. What is that nature?
You see,
what is the fair?
There's a contrast between the culture of the people and the deteriorating culture and the introduced culture or way of life by the colonial masters. So there's a contrast between what the Malawians were before the Portuguese and the British came with their barbaric, Caucasian, evil ideologies. Because this is in a line with, this is akin to Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. Because when you look at, there are two blocks in Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. He was looking at the Igbo society before the advent of colonialism and Christianity, and the Igbo society after colonialism and slavery. I think the play, the collection of the poems of Frankly is in that context. The same thing you will see the contrast between the old order and new order in Wole Soyinka's The Lion and the Jewel. So the collection of the poems is a kind of a wake-up call to the Malawians that, hey, you have to wake up. This is who we are. We don't need to allow anybody to define who we are. No matter how.
So what is the nature of the fear there? The nature of our fears.
The nature of the fear is coming out to say the truth. The nature of the fear the people have is that, let's not try to be who we are. Because we are afraid of going to jail. We are afraid of being killed. We are afraid of this. Whether you are afraid of it or you are not afraid of it, you are going to die. So why not just face it? Why not just take the bull by the horns?
So that is what Chipazula is talking
about. That's what Chipazula is talking about.
Okay.
Why not just take the bull by the horns? Because, see, Africans will fear over too many nonsense. If you may permit me to quote Fela again, suffering and smiling. Policeman will match you, you will not talk. Army man will conk you, you will not talk. A leader will steal money, the money will be taken to South Africa in a jet belonging to a member of the cabinet. The government will say it's not aware of the stolen money, but she will turn around and receive the money. A government will be defining that corruption is not a stealing.
Is that happening in Malawi?
Yes, it's happening. Dr. Heston Bender, these are some of the atrocities he was committing. Even worse than this.
Because I was also looking at, when you look at the documentaries about Malawi, you talk about HIV/AIDS. I'm not saying that related to the health life of the people, or why would they have a lot of prostitutes. What could have led to having highest rate of HIV/AIDS in a country like that? Is it because of the bastardized governance system in the country, or what could have led to this?
I think it's poverty. And poverty in Africa is
designed. I don't think it's caused. It is designed by the bourgeoisie.
Yes, poverty. That's what I'm getting to. Poverty in Africa, there is 50-50 responsibility or 40-60 responsibility. The West, the colonial masters are playing their own key role in collaboration with some deviants.
The dogs eating dogs.
The dog eating dogs who are Africans themselves. It's akin or similar to what had happened during the slave trade. In the slave trade, it was mostly Africans who were capturing Africans and they were selling them to Europe, to Arabs, Europeans, Americans to go and die. It's the same thing, almost in the same context. That is what is still happening today. The corruption, the corruption in Malawi, the corruption in most African countries, the corruption in my country. It's not done without their foreign collaborators. Where did they take this money to? They take it to Switzerland. Up to today, some stolen money from Nigeria was still recovered from Swiss bank.
But not in Malawi.
Not Malawians. But when we are talking about what affect the nose, affect the eyes, what affect the eyes, affect the ear, what affect one African country, according to my understanding of what Africa needs to do, it affects all Africa. If we
but I'm looking at why the poverty in Malawi. Is
why
it
the
caused
poverty?
by the atrocities of Nigerian politicians?
No, I am just doing,
because I wanted to really explore the Malawi
literature. Okay, because
in a way
the cause of poverty in Malawi is not any other thing but bad leadership, which led to unfortunate poverty. When a girl, for instance, she wakes up in the morning, she has toothpaste to brush her mouth, she has food, she has clothes, her father can pay her school fees, he can take care of her basic needs. It may be difficult for her to give herself to a man she does not love. If I thought she will do that not because she wants to have money to buy clothes, not because she wants to have money to buy cream, but not because she wants to have money to eat food, but she's doing it out of love, and she will do it with who she loves. But when you see there's a rampant cases of HIV, it's because of poverty. Young women sell themselves because of money, and the young men, it's not as if they really have the money to give them, but they deceive them that, okay, I will do this, I will do that. We know how some of these things are being done. As a child who was brought up in Lagos, I can tell you much about this. It's a poverty. So once a society is not poor, people will be engaged.
Let me just quote one part of this work. It said, "My people clap hands when they hear lies. My people sing and dance when whips crack their backs." What can you say about this?
Yes. When people hear lies, they clap their hands, and so on and so forth, as you have quoted from the text. It's not far from what we're talking about. It's not far from what we're talking about.
Because that's what is happening. Saying Malawians clap hands when they hear lies.
Yes.
Malawians sing and dance when we crack their backs.
Good. It's the same thing happening almost in all the African countries, or most of the African countries.
Specifically Malawi. Because that's our focus today.
Specifically Malawi. You see, some of our leaders, they will come with the face of lovers, smiling, showing to us that they are in love with us or they like us. But in reality, they are not. And in most cases, their words and their action and what they think cannot be in harmony. They are not in harmony. And in as much as a leader, what you tell the people is different from what you're thinking, and what you're thinking is different from what your overact or your actions are. You are telling the people a lie. And it will only take the deep-rooted thinkers, those who can reason beyond the ordinary, to unveil the lies in your speeches. And this is what we see in Malawi. This is what we see in many African countries.
Hero worshipping.
And the hero worshipping.
Hero worshipping.
Yes.
Hero worshipping.
Hero worshipping. Some of these people should be thrown behind bars. And they are the same set of people because they have looted, they have so much wealth, ill-gotten wealth.
So what can you say generally about godfatherism? Because this is what I say as godfatherism.
Godfatherism.
If your politician, if they are lying and you believe that they are your godfather, you don't care. You still clap for them.
You blindly follow them. Yes.
Even if they are stealing your money, as long as they give you something token for the time being, for the short time that you need, you still use that, right? So I feel that is the area, the angle, because you are blaming the bourgeoisies. You are not looking at the people themselves. They know this person is lying, and they will keep clapping. They know this person is pinching them, is knocking them down, and they will still be smiling with the person. I think the blame should be balanced.
It should be balanced.
Because we have our own cognitive domain. I know poverty is designed to control that cognitive domain.
You see, if I may...
Look at it from that angle.
If I may remind...
Are we going to blame only the leaders, or we blame ourselves too?
If you may permit me to quote my old teacher of the blessed memory. Professor Onyi Ogumba. When we're discussing a text, I think it's a Ghanaian text, Anoa, he said one thing, that was in 2005. I keep on thinking about that thing. That was during Obasanjo. He said, some of you were blaming Obasanjo. If you are in power, you will do worse. Because you don't think right. The problem is this. Some of us in this part of the world called Africa, we don't have our own original thinking. We base our analysis of the fundamental issues around us based on hearsay. We are lazy to read and find out, or to listen and find out the truth for ourselves, so that we can be on the right platform.
The word is actually the lazy word now. So we can't.
No, I disagree with that. The word is not a lazy word. There are people in some part of the world. See, the Caucasians, the Asians, they think about their 100 years now. But an African man, for him to move, some African leaders or even African followers,
human beings don't like anything that is difficult.
Chinese has planned.
Why do you think Jack Ma is making money?
How to dominate?
Why do you think that Mark Zuckerberg is making a lot of money? If you want to be a billionaire in the world, search for things that will make life easy for people. People don't like to work too hard to get things done.
No,
that's why I look at it from that.
That is not the angle.
That's the lazy word I'm talking about.
No, that is not the angle.
Because everyone wants things to be easy for themselves. They don't want to do work like we used to do in the past. Why do we have the technology?
Let me explain what I meant.
People make money from technology today because it makes life easy for people.
That is not.
And people don't want to confirm anything anymore.
That is not the.
That's why the media is misleading. You know, people are using social media to mislead a lot of people.
That's not the area I'm looking about.
So the lazy I'm talking about is from that angle.
Okay, that's not the angle I'm looking at. Let me explain what I mean the lazy I'm looking at. You see, as a people, we should begin to think of how we can plant a tree that will yield good fruit after 100 years. Probably most of us must have gone by then. Then the generation after us will benefit from it. That is the angle of the laziness I'm looking at it. Like Fela will say, I don't want to die. I want to build house. Mama build house. I want to get married. My child will have to go to school. Yes, it's good to do all these things. But what happened after you build the house? Your child went to the university. You get married. What happened? What happened to the generation after you? You see, we need to, as a people, as Africans, we need to enlarge our vision. We need to see ourselves beyond where we are today. That's my point. And this is what the Western world is doing. This is what the Asian world is doing. Why must we have Africa?
Apart from Saudi Arabia.
Apart from Saudi Arabia. Well, I don't know what to say about those people. Apart from the religious activity going there by the commoners, by the common people, not the leaders. The leader, to some extent, I can say they have apostates from the actual Islam. They are just putting the garment of Islam. But the generality of the common men and women in Saudi, they are still Muslims. So the point I'm trying to make here is that not until we are able to make sacrifice by planting trees that after 100 years it will begin yielding food. Africa will not be what it is. It will always remain a mere dream. What do I mean by this in connection with our discussion with Malawian literature? You see, no nation, Dr. E.A. Uzobi said, no nation or family or community will ever grow without the people he called deep-rooted thinkers. When you look at the English Renaissance, the creative writers, the poets, the playwrights, Shakespeare, Alexander Pope, Philip Sidney, Edmund Spencer, John Milton, John Donne. Some of those lyrics they were writing, Thomas Wyatt, some of those lyrics they were writing, you were thinking they were just talking about mundane love. No! The metaphysical poet. You're thinking that John Donne, you think he's talking about just having the pleasure with a woman. No. the hidden meaning, the pragmatic meaning of most of their writing is how to open the eyes of others in Europe to start inventing, to start doing things, to start creating. And that was what made European what it is today. One of the famous writers is Christopher Marlowe, who wrote Dr. Faustus. Nobody will tell me that Dr. Faustus has not influenced the thinking, has not influenced the science and technology from Europe and America. It does. These are the kind of things African creative writers, African politicians, African philosophers, African journalists, we need to paint ourselves good. There are a lot of evil. People are sleeping outside in Europe and America today. But you will never hear it, you will never see it on the news.
Let's go into the last part of this show. We'll be looking at Sunset Comes from Sapitwa. Is a very interesting part. If you've talked about the protests, we look at all these parts. If you look at this generally, we look at the pains of the people and the fights to let people reset their brain, because that's what I'm seeing so far. It's called for the reset of brain.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying, the nature of our fears, you know, watch your tongue, etc. like that. So what I think, what can you say about the Sunset Comes to Sapitwa? Why Sunset coming to Sapitwa? Why not explain?
There's a lot of similarities between the two texts.
The three texts.
They are in sequence, though written by different people, but they seems to be in a sequence. The theme, because the passion, the Pan-Africanism in them is working. The muse is working with them, has used the authors to speak to their fellow Malawians as well as the rest of us from other parts of Africa. The idea of resistance, the idea of thinking right, acting right, planting trees, and loving yourself, painting yourself good, forgiving of each other. One country fight another country, one tribe fight another country. It's not as if they don't have it in other parts of the world. But it is high time for us to have this understanding that just as we have different faces, I can't think like you and you can't think like me, so you can't act like me and I can't act like you. So let me understand you so that I can live with you. These are some of the things the Sunset is talking about. We need to decolonize our mind. We need to think about ourselves. We need to love ourselves. We need to appreciate who we are and what we have. It is a way that we can be on the right platform to grow. But now time has come that the antithesis, what is unveiled has been unveiled. What is secret has been unveiled. So they're able to see. Thank God, like what we say, Mungo de Geria Waye, that the wind has blown and we're able to see the buttocks of the hen or of a fowl. That is, what is in the dark is made known to us now. So should we continue operating in the dark, even when we know our real enemies, even when we know this is our problem? Should we continue in that path? Is it no high time that we allow the Apollo to unite us, to work as a people, to love ourselves, to act as a people, irrespective of petty differences we have?
Thank you so much. Dear viewers, we're going to meet next time. When we meet next time, you will realize that we have a lot to talk about. This is just the intro. See you next time. Thank you.